Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
I'm nobody. I came because I had no choice. I came to save my home and the people that I love.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome back to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me once again here is Chris from the Multiversal Omnibus. How are you today, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good. Ready to talk some superhero stuff. It's always fun. It's been a nice chill day, and life's good.
Good to hear. As people may know from seeing the title of the video or the podcast episode, but we are talking Arrow Season 1. So Chris joined us to talk Superman and Lois Seasons 1 and 2. Superman and Lois Season 3 is starting in about 12 days. And I've heard the first two episodes are really good. Like some reviewers have already watched them and said that they're a really strong start. And people may know from those previous episodes that I have not seen any of the Arrowverse series. And I decided to change that. I left work early one day with a huge headache, and I came home and I was like in the mood for some DC television. And I said, let's dive in. It's always kind of been overwhelming with how many shows there are now, how many seasons there were. But I was like, let's dive in. I pulled up a couple viewing orders online. And I also, you also graciously answered my tweet as well on, how to start watching these. And yeah, so we're gonna try to keep it restricted to season 1 of Arrow for people that may not have seen the other ones. My current status, by the way, on where I currently am in these shows is I have seen up through episode 5 of season 4 of Arrow, up through episode 5 of Supergirl, and up through episode 5 of season 2 of The Flash. So I started about 2 weeks ago. I can tell you the exact day. Hold on. I started on the 14th of February. Yeah, first day I think I watched like 6 or 7 episodes or something of Arrow season 1. So that's where we're going to be starting with on this. And I know Chris would be excited because he's told me before how much he likes these shows. So just kind of give us your background. Yeah, give us your background on when you watched Arrow season 1, and was it when it was airing? Was it later? Like what grabbed you and what made you start checking it out?
So the frustrating thing with me in the Arrowverse was I didn't get started right away. So I watched the first 2 seasons of Arrow on Netflix. Then I was like, oh crap, I've caught up. So now I have to record it and wait for it. And I did the same thing with The Flash. I think the first season I watched on Netflix. I didn't start it right away. And then I actually think I waited on The Flash for way too long. I think I watched the first 3 seasons on Netflix and then became obsessed with the show. And then season 4, I'm just like, so I don't know when I started Arrow on Netflix or which season I caught up in, but I started all these shows on Netflix and was like, oh my God, I'm getting more and more obsessed. And by the time Legends of Tomorrow got into the mix for me, I was like, okay, all 4 of these shows I am in love with, and I'm setting up my DVR. And every week it was just like, okay, so that's my superhero content for the week. Arrow started out as my favorite. The Flash and Legends became my favorite.
Nice. Background for me, obviously, is that I grew up watching Smallville. I grew up, Smallville reruns on ABC Family, started watching the show. eventually, the year that Smallville ended, I watched all of the, I bought all the DVDs and watched them in 2 weeks. I was done 10 seasons in 2 weeks. And, back then I was, I was in college and didn't have a lot of responsibilities at that point. So I was able to knock it out in 2 weeks. But then that's part of the reason why I didn't watch Arrow, though, actually, is because I really liked Justin Hartley's Green Arrow on Smallville. And I kind of thought it was a big bummer that they were kind of like rebooting with a new Arrow. I was like, oh, that would have been cool if they continued it with Justin Hartley. So I kind of was not as interested in it. And then I heard good things about it. And then I was like, I remember I did the Disney College program twice. On my second program in 2015, roommates of mine were watching season 2 on Netflix because season 3 was airing, or season 2 had just finished airing. And I think that was when the CW had the Netflix deal where it almost immediately goes over to Netflix, days after. I think it was 2 weeks after. It was immediately on Netflix for the full season. So they were watching Arrow. And I actually remember what episode was in season 2. We can talk about that next time. But, and I was like, oh, that looks good. Maybe I'll check it out sometime. And then I started hearing the complaints, right? Then you start hearing people being like, don't even bother with it. Season 3 and 4 are bad, or, it gets worse. And then I was like, so do I want to watch it? My parents watched The Flash, and I would see stuff from it. And, anytime Tom Cavanaugh was on the screen, I was transfixed. If I'm just walking by, I'm just walking by trying to get some milk or something. I see him. I'm like, he's doing really good in this show. And I would always be confused with what's going on because they were blowing through him, But then I started hearing complaints about that one going on and losing its way. So then I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to dive into this. The only Arrowverse I'd ever watched was Crisis on Infinite Earths. I purchased each episode of that digitally so I could watch it as it aired, because they were bringing back Tom Welling as Clark Kent from Smallville. So that was my in, and I had no idea what the hell was going on with the rest of the plots, So I kind of know how Arrow ends, I guess, right? Because of how Crisis ended. But I didn't really catch a lot of the stuff going on. So, and I know the characters, right? I've read DC Comics, I watched the cartoons, I know the characters. So when I get some of these name drops, I'm like, okay, yes, I understand what that is. But that's what kind of put me off from it for so long, right? And then I kind of thought of it. My wife and I rewatched Smallville. She watched it for the first time, and I watched it for my second full 10-season view. We started that in 2021, and we finished it by the beginning of 2022. Within a full year, we watched all 10 seasons. She liked it. I love it. And then I was kind of in the mood for more DC, and I kept thinking maybe I should watch The Flash or Arrow. And I just kept putting it off again for a whole nother year. And now here we are. And I think part of it's easier for me now because I do have the MCU has slowed down a bit, right? They're going to be pumping the brakes a bit, and they're trying to push back some of these shows. I would always end up being all right, it's another Wednesday. I got another episode of Miss Marvel. Then a few weeks later, it's She-Hulk. Then a few weeks later, it's this show. And then blah, blah, boom, 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 boom. And it didn't leave me a lot of time to just sit and watch other television shows. So now that is kind of slowing down and they're going to be pulling back the needle on that a bit, it kind of left me with some opportunities of okay, how do I fill my time with superhero stuff now? And knowing that all of these shows are sitting there with 100+ episodes is really cool because that's what I miss, in the sense of when we watch Netflix, when we watch Disney Plus, a lot of these shows are now 8 episodes or less, right? 8 episodes or less for a TV show a season. And I'm so used to being able to discover a show Like when my wife and I discovered Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we had like 7 seasons of TV to watch when we found it, and you're
It's like
able
hitting a gold mine.
yeah,
It's
and
like
it's
hitting a
20
gold
some
mine.
episodes a season,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. It gives you the comfort of knowing that there are episodes to still watch, We can catch up on, like, if I wanted to rewatch The Mandalorian, it takes less than 16 hours, right? Because it's 8 episodes a season, plus the premiere of season 3. So
Now you're making me feel guilty for not being caught up on Mando. Come on.
So it's kind of like there is a charm to having shows that have had 20 some episodes that you can sit down and have, like, they have 8 or 9 seasons, and you know that there's 100 some episodes that you can keep revisiting the characters. So that was something that kind of drew me in with that, but it's also daunting, right? It's daunting because I'm like, okay, I know I start with Arrow. When do I add in everything else? And what I've decided is I'm not going to go full steam ahead. And what I mean by that is I know they've retconned Constantine as being part of it. Lucifer is part of it. I'm not going with those. I'm not adding those. I am pretty much sticking with Arrow, Supergirl, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, I guess, and Batwoman, right? Did I miss one?
No, that'll pretty much do it. Stargirl is technically part of it, but
I do want to watch that as well. But I don't need to add it in with this watch, right? I can just watch it.
Yeah, I started watching Stargirl when it started as a DC Universe show, and so I watched most of the first season, and I kind of fell out of it. And when I fall out of a show, it's not always because I don't like it. It's sometimes it's like, well, it didn't pull me. It didn't pull me back in. And then that's kind of me telling myself, what's the reason for that, So there's got to be a reason if it doesn't pull me. Because once a show has its hooks in you, you usually go back and you're usually waiting for the next hit. So I really am excited that you're into the Arrowverse, though. That's so much fun because it has its ups and downs, and there are seasons that are just not good, but it is overall one of the best things in superhero media.
Well, and I want to discover that myself too. Like, there are seasons that people have said that are not good of Smallville that I enjoy. People really crap on season 2 of Superman and Lois, which I don't think is that bad.
Well, yeah, it's also
it's
in
a step
vogue
down, but it's not
also,
like, yeah,
it's in vogue to say things aren't cool in the
Yeah,
moment. But I think there's some things about the Arrowverse that could get a bad rap. The Flash season 4, I think, is fantastic, and people say, "Oh, the last good Flash season ended in season 3 or season 2." I'm like, no, it's there's a lot of good seasons of the Flash. They just had a couple of clunkers in the later seasons. For example, season 6 of the Flash, really hard to sit through. I'm sorry, it is. I love it. I love it because I love the Flash and I'm invested. But if you're not invested, you're probably not like this final season of the Flash. There are a couple of moments in each episode where I'm just like, oh my God, come on. And you'll get there. You'll get there. But
yep.
and you might have a different reaction to it, and that's why this is fun to talk about it. But it has its ups and downs, but the ups to me are so incredible with each show. I think the Arrowverse knocked it out of the park with what there really are. Because remember, this is a small budget operation for each show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I tweeted this out. I don't think it's a spoiler to say Gorilla Grodd shows up in Flash, but he does. And it was, what we have to think about too is not just CW budget in that, but I thought he looked pretty good. His first main appearance. I don't know how many times he shows up. I guess I'll find that out. But what I like about, what you also have to put in perspective too is that I was watching a season that's 9 years old too, and the fact that they did it that well 9 years ago on the CW, I thought was pretty cool.
So the only CW shows that don't always stink of the CW. There are moments where the Flash got to, oh God, this is a CW show. There are season 4 of Arrow. Well, I think it gets a little more hate than it deserves.
So is
It was
season 4
rough.
not liked? Is season 4 of Arrow not liked?
So season 4 of Arrow is usually considered the crap season.
Really?
A lot of
Okay,
people,
I
a
will
lot
say
of people
this.
don't like season 3. I loved season 3.
No.
I love season 3.
I'll tell you my rankings right now,
Okay.
without spoiling anything. I think 4 is a step up from 3. My favorite Arrow season is 2. My second favorite is 1. Then it would probably go 3 at bottom. And it's not like I think it was terrible. It just didn't grab me. I don't like the, the Ra's al Ghul storyline really, in season 3. And that was the part that, and I feel like the flashbacks of season 3 were not as,
I like the Ra's al Ghul stuff. I love the Ra's al Ghul stuff. I was like, well, if I can't have a Batman show, I'm getting my Batman show anyway.
Right.
A lot of people saw that as a detraction. I was like, they're not giving me a Batman show, so I might as well just enjoy this.
Gotham was on Fox at the same time.
Right? Yeah, okay. But that doesn't count. It doesn't scratch the itch. Let's be honest. And the timeline in Gotham doesn't make. It's just it's a mess. But I like season 3 of Arrow. My favorite season of the whole show is season 2. I thought season 2 was perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was the best Arrow season so far.
I think season 2 was perfect. Season 1 is close. I thought season 3 was good. I think season 5 was fantastic.
Okay.
I thought season 6 wasn't fantastic. And I thought season 7 and 8, they went back and forth. Like, I feel like Arrow never really got steady feet after season 5. It just went from great, and when it was great, it was like, yes, this is one of the good episodes. And when it was bad, it was like, okay.
Right.
But I never felt like I was wasting my time with Arrow. I never felt that I was wasting my time watching a show that was complete garbage. I think when you talk on the internet, people act like, "Oh, it was trash. It was Big L." Horrible.
The issue with online discourse, right? I say as we're talking online, but the issue with online discourse, where it's tweets or message boards, stuff like that, is everything is either the greatest thing ever, or it's mid, or it's the worst thing ever. There's 3 categories. There is no just I liked it. It's either the greatest thing ever, mid, which is usually used as like a slight, not even.
I hate the word mid.
Me too.
So when someone says mid, I get really, really offended because it's just an assault on the English language. But I really hate it when someone says mid when they're talking about a person. They're not even talking about a show. They're just, oh, she's mid. Like, and what are you, a 3? Like, come on.
What do we call that? What do we call that? Low? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like to call things mid in general, but I will say the Arrowverse gets pooped on the internet. It's the punching bag, but I think it's a little like Booster Gold. It's the greatest universe you never cared about. It's the greatest universe you've never heard of. If people don't like it, and by the way, I think there's a lot to say about investment. If you're invested in it, it's a lot different than if you turn on season 5 random episode of any of these shows. It's a lot different.
Clips. I saw a clip of, I don't even know what it was, and I don't need context for this because I don't want spoilers, but it was a Flash season where they were almost like lightsaber battling. That's like a clip people usually pull up to crap on it, I
might have been one of the ones doing it.
I just don't know anything about it. I'm like, that looks silly. Like, it does look silly, right?
It was bad.
I'm like, I don't know the context either. So
I'm not going to give too much away. I'm not going to give that away. And mind you, when I make fun of the Flash, it's a little different because I love the show with all my heart. It's a lot different when I make fun of the Flash than some random guy who's just like, "Ooh, let's poop on the CW because we can do that."
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, only I can make fun of my younger sibling, right? It's kind of
there you go. Very much so.
So let's dive into season 1 here. I do want to say, though, Flash season 1 is probably my favorite season out of the shows I've watched.
It's the best season in the whole Arrowverse. I hate to set the bar unsettable for the rest of the Flash, but like, it is the best season of superhero TV, maybe ever. It's fantastic. Flash season 1, perfect. All right,
It's really
Arrow.
good. We'll have you on to talk Flash season 1 too.
All right.
That's a really fun one that I want to talk about as well. But yeah, Arrow. So this premiered on October 10th of 2012. And it was on, of course, the CW.
Mhm.
This is a year and about a half after the finale of Smallville, which ran for 10 seasons and kind of opened up the door for these type of shows to exist on specifically the CW to but also, like, in a few years, we're going to get Gotham on Fox. You're going to get Supergirl on CBS. You're going to get all these shows that kind of, Smallville set the stage. Arrow made it super popular, even though, I mean, the viewers are lower than Smallville, but in the sense of made it cool, right? Because he was like, they pretty much took Batman, right, and made him the Green Arrow for some of this, and even give him some of the Batman villains. And
It was right
all
during
this
the
stuff.
heat of the Nolan film.
Yes,
So
right after Dark Knight
Mhm.
Rises. Yeah. So this, like you said, they couldn't give you a Batman show, so they're like, we'll do, because Green Arrow in the comics isn't as hardcore as this version of Oliver Queen. And I think what shocked me, because I didn't know this, because I hadn't watched this before, is how much of, like, he doesn't have a no-kill rule in season 1. He's actively killing some of these people, and I thought that was
Mhm.
a interesting choice in season 1, I guess. Because, to be honest, I don't know too much about Green Arrow in the comics. I just know from what I've seen of him in the comics, he isn't as hardcore as he is in this show. And just the fact that he was killing people, I was kind of like, wow, this is the fact that I didn't know any of this. I didn't know that he had cheated on Laurel with Sarah. And, like that first episode, I was pretty captivated because I had no
Yeah.
clue that this was the history
Yeah.
of Oliver Queen in this universe. Because, like I said, I'd only really watched him in Crisis, which he's like a totally different guy at that point.
Well, he's a totally different guy than he even in season 1. I think
Right.
the whole point of season 1 was he had the heart of a hero and the heart of a good person, but he was lost in his youth. And when he got to the island, I think there's even a scene where he tells Laurel that it washed away the layers that were hiding the person he really was, something to that effect. I loved what this season did because it gave them room to grow. If he was just no kill from the beginning, if he was perfectly polished Green Arrow, and the Laurel thing was a little less of a work in progress, I think the show would have ran out of room to grow. So I think they left themselves a lot of options the way they wrote. They didn't write themselves into the corner from the premise.
Yeah, and I think another thing that really shocked me is how fast characters like Felicity and Diggle learn his secret in this show. Like, I knew he had a team, because people make fun of that too. How all of these heroes don't do it by themselves, which I can kind of understand. But I think in a TV show, you need to have characters that it can bounce off of. Even in Smallville, I'm going to keep going back to that because that's my experience. Clark has Chloe, who is kind of like the Felicity, where she can hack into anything. And Superman usually doesn't have that character. So, like, in TV, you got to be able to give some of these roles to other characters to be able to have drama, have interpersonal relationships, have a bigger cast. It would be boring if we just followed Oliver, because you also would need to hear his thoughts. And the way we hear his thoughts are by bouncing him off of Diggle, bouncing him off of Felicity, in the show, because otherwise it would just be monologues, him talking to himself, and it wouldn't, I don't think, hit as well as it did. And like, I don't know how this went down when the show was airing, but I really like Felicity. Now, I know people really hate Felicity as well. I don't know if that's because...
Well, that's because of season 4.
Is it? Okay, so it's because of season 4, which I'm currently watching, so I'll find out, I guess.
Felicity becomes quite unbearable to me in season 4, in my opinion. I know other people who watched the show who love Felicity the whole way through. Season 4, you're gonna have a reaction. I really like all the characters in the show, but I will say Diggle's my favorite. Diggle's the most interesting character to me, and the loyal best friend. And I think that Diggle has a great start to this show because he's pure of heart, and he could have ruined everything for Oliver right away. He could have ruined everything for Oliver right away, but he ended up being part of the crusade. And I think if this show without Diggle would just fall completely flat. You needed the comedic result of Emily Bett Rickards, the Felicity character, and you needed the brother character, the best friend guy in Diggle, because I don't think it's a spoiler that it wasn't going to be Tommy.
Right. Yeah, we can talk about that because, and I had no clue about Tommy dying and until he did in the finale. I was actually quite shocked by that. I did not know that he would that they would kill him off.
That was a big death, because I don't want to skip to the end, but that was the show saying, we mean business. We're here to actually do something, and the decisions we make are going to have consequences going forward. That was my sign that the show was taking itself seriously.
Yeah, it'll take itself less seriously later when some of these characters end up getting brought back so many times. That's TV for you, really. But no, I like that. There was times I was annoyed by Tommy when he like overreacts about stuff, but ultimately I thought he was a good character that had, a good arc, and I was actually really sad when he died. But I actually would rather that than I thought they were going to kill off, Lance when he was going to.
It looked that way in that episode. Yeah, it looked that way, and
and then so they pulled the rug out from under me and made it Tommy instead. So that was
they set your heartstrings in one room, and your heartstrings got pulled by a completely different thing. I thought the finale was just perfect. I thought the build up was, I think in the middle of the season, it really started. Once you kind of got done with the count, the whole thing just started amping up.
Yes. If there is a complaint I have in season 1, it is the count. It is also the way that the count is portrayed. I think the actor he's probably an okay actor, but
his favorite lunch meat is ham.
Yes, he really
very
hammed it up. Very hammed it up. It felt very Joker-esque for no reason at times.
They wanted to make a Batman show, I'm telling you. They had no interest in making an Arrow show.
That was my thing. I did not like the count. And it was those episodes that I was really like, oh, I don't like this.
If I could have taken one thing out, if I could take one thing out, the whole McKenna thing, the whole McKenna Hall thing, I would have taken that completely out, because I thought that was just, we need to delay the Oliver, Tommy, and Laurel thing just a little bit. We need to delay the story. And that's the problem with the CW. And that's the problem with 23 episodes.
Right.
I thought that was dragging it out. No offense to McKenna Hall. It was actually a pretty cool character. It was just, I thought it was just stuffing the story. And it didn't do much for Oliver, in my opinion.
There's a few things in this season, I think, that get pretty wrapped up at times. So is this the season that, like, I'm trying to remember now, Diggle's brother's wife was a love interest for Diggle?
Yes.
And I felt like that got dropped so fast, and all of a sudden they bring up Lila, right? Like,
Yeah,
that
they did
happened
that.
real quick. Like, I started wondering, like, wait, where is his brother's wife at again? Like, it happened like so quick.
Yeah, they didn't really decide to care all the way about Diggle as like one of the main story beats until like I'd say halfway through season 2. I think it's halfway through season 2 they're like Diggle's the dude. But at first he's just the security guard for Oliver. So I think season 1 they didn't know what to do with him. He needed personality outside of it. I think they were trying to give him a storyline to get you to know his character a little bit more. But I also don't think they cared about that storyline because it had nothing to do with Oliver. It had nothing to do with anything connected to any other characters. The greatest thing about Oliver's storyline is it connected to Lance, it connected to Laurel, it connected to Diggle, it connected to Felicity. And the further you got away from Oliver and you focused on Diggle at that time in the show, you were away from the story. So they couldn't do it even if they wanted to do it. Does that make sense?
I think they could have still did it because, like, I actually found myself invested in, and part of that is because of, Diggle. But I did find myself more invested in, like, okay, this is a fun twist. Like, he likes his brother's widow. That's interesting. Oh, she seems to reciprocate. And they try it out, and then something happens, and then she kind of just leaves and never really mentioned ever again, which is kind of an odd thing. So it felt like what I think is maybe they didn't think it was working, and they were like, we got to pivot to Lila, right? We got it. Like, we're going to pivot to her because she can be part of Argus, and we can have this connector.
And that becomes a very important part of the show. Yeah. And they definitely needed Argus because they at one point they do a whole like Suicide Squad thing, and then they get told they have to stop using the Suicide Squad. So all of a sudden it's Task Force X, and we're like, we know what that is. But like there's even a Harley Quinn at one point of the show for like a little hint of it.
Yeah. I saw that. Is that in this season or is it season 2?
That's season. I think that's season 3 or 4. I could be wrong.
There is in one of the first 2 seasons. I'll say this: there is a laughing maniacal laugh. Right.
You know what? It might be season 1.
Behind
it all meshes together.
That is voiced by I think Tara Strong, who does Harley Quinn. So they got the real actress. They got her to do a laugh that is almost exactly like Harley's laugh, but they couldn't say it was Harley Quinn. So that was an interesting.
They wanted to make a Batman show. I'm telling you, the people who started the show wanted a Batman show. I'm
actually really surprised that they even let them use Ra's al Ghul in season 3, because you know how WB is so. For background here, same sort of stuff happens in Smallville where they are told what characters they can and cannot use. And sometimes things would open up and they'd be able to use a character and then be told later, no, you can't use that anymore. Or, stuff like that. And it's the same sort of thing. It's like they were always confused that people would think that the movies are supposed to tie into the TV shows when most people don't think that way. Most people do not think I can watch this movie person on a TV screen right now. Like, for most people, they don't even think that's a possibility.
Right.
So for them to think people would be confused, I think is odd. And then the fact that they really, like, at one point it seems like they didn't care because they were able to use Flash had a whole TV show and they were still making a movie about Flash. So now that that movie is taken so long.
Were they making the movie though?
right. But
it's now just coming out.
Weird.
So
it seems weird that
I agree.
But with Batman, they're really protective.
So
yeah, I'm really
but they also didn't have anybody to use. Let's be honest. The cultural zeitgeist of Green Arrow have more than a couple villains.
Yeah, I can't really tell you any of his villains. I think Malcolm.
That's
Merlin
the entire reason.
Right?
Yeah, that's the entire reason. The one was season 1. And I'm not trying to to rain on the parade of the Green Arrow, who I very much like, and I've read in the comics sporadically. I haven't read a ton of Green Arrow, but I've read here and there. But they didn't have anybody use, so they used Batman villains, and they wanted to make a Batman show. The biggest complaint that I have about Arrow is also one of the reasons I enjoyed it. They wanted to make a Batman show.
It's interesting too, because actually Smallville started out as a Batman show, and then they were like, "No, we can't let you do Batman," so they did Superman pretty much. So, I mean,
didn't they have a Batman like figure in Smallville at one point? Like, wasn't he a shadow or something?
I think they do hint, but it's funny because Smallville does the same thing that Arrow does, where they made pretty much Oliver Queen their Bruce Wayne. They made him their Batman figure, So it's interesting that they kind of that DC or the CW, I guess, is always consistently being like, if we need a Batman stand-in and we can't have Batman, it's going to be Green Arrow.
Well, it's I wonder why. Let's see the Venn diagram. In the middle of that Venn diagram, Playboy, millionaire, no superpowers. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Trained in the same fighting styles for the most part. And you know what? Instead of having a bow and arrow, you just have the what's it called? Oh my god. Never mind. I had a brain fart. But the grapnel belt. Yeah, that's you have that, and then a bow and arrow. It's the same difference. So
right.
So yeah, that's why it is. I think that Arrow did a really good job in season 1 of giving us the baddies of the week, but having ones that mattered. Like Deadshot was kind of one that mattered throughout the whole season.
Yes, and I really like the actor who plays Floyd Lawton.
Oh, he was great. I agree.
He's been great. We also had, there was a scene, I think it was in like one of the first episodes, by the way. I really like this scene where Diggle had found out about Oliver and he quits, right? And then he's at Big Belly Burger, I think, right? Or some sort of diner where they are, where he runs into Oliver again, and Oliver's got his new bodyguard. And Oliver excuses himself to go to the bathroom, and then the bodyguard's just standing there for a bit, and Diggle's like, "That boy's gone." Like that scene is really good.
That was good. That. Yeah, that was good. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, but I think now that I'm looking at some of this stuff, I kind of have nostalgia for some of it because I've missed a few of the characters. I don't really want to say who, I guess, but some of these characters leave or die in later seasons that I've watched so far that like we don't really see the Queen Mansion anymore. There's some of these sets that you do end up kind of leaving behind, and I felt like the vibe in the first 2 seasons were like just really good. I thought I had a good mix of daily, like weekly cases, like you said, but also tying it into the larger narrative. Wish I could have done less with the Count. They bring him back in season 2, and I couldn't stand those episodes.
The Count isn't my favorite either. The Count isn't my favorite.
The whole Vertigo stuff is
and then getting Thea involved in it and the drama. That I thought Oliver had a weird line to walk with Thea because he couldn't quite tell Thea not to be just like he was, but he didn't want her to be like he was. And that's a really hard line to walk. He basically had to play the role of protective older brother to a woman that he gave an awful example to. That was a very interesting thing. And I think Thea is one of the characters that gets better and better as the show goes on.
Yep. I was going to say that. I could not stand her in season 1.
She was awful in season 1 because they didn't really give her agency. They treated her like the younger sister.
She was a young brat is pretty much how they treated
her.
Who wanted to just party. They got her into the whole drug scene. I didn't like any of that. stuff with the.
Mhm.
I liked her in the first episode because she was so happy Oliver was fine, and I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
touching. And then it was like downhill from there.
It was
until she
interesting
meets
that they called
Roy.
her Speedy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, until she met Roy. But it was interesting they called her Speedy. Anyone who knows Green Arrow, that's
Mhm.
supposed to be Roy. So
Yeah, and when I first
that
saw
was
that,
interesting.
I was like, okay, are they just doing like Speedy is going to be Thea, or that's just a nod to it? They're never going to introduce Roy, and then they introduced Roy, and I did not know Roy was in the Arrowverse. I do know about Roy Harper. I know about Speedy, the very famous comic book cover where he is on drugs.
Mhm.
But I had no idea they were going to put him in the show, and because I never hear people talk about Roy in Arrow, and he gets introduced as like a mugger at the end of season 1, and I was like, oh, okay. When they said his name, Roy Harper, I was like, oh, okay, there you go, there's the reference. But I'm like, but Thea's Speedy. I was lost then. I was like, I don't know what they're gonna do. And
Well, so here's the thing. They like to bring Green Arrow comic elements in there, but they also knew that nobody knew what they were. So let's be honest. And one of the things that drives me nuts is Laurel not being called Dinah.
yeah, their mother is Dinah.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Why do you think they did that?
Honestly, I think this show just wanted to make enough curveballs that they could do whatever they want. I think it's very similar to Superman and Lois,
Right.
where they have
Where they're like,
Jordan, and then Jordan's the one with powers.
Yes.
I think
yeah.
it's kind of what they do to be able to do whatever they want.
Or
But
here's Doomsday, but it's Bizarro. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, I don't know. Laurel is a character in this show that is either incredible and one of my favorite characters, or the show just stops caring about her as a character. And it's really frustrating because I think her father is one of the best characters in the whole Arrowverse. What did you think about Lance in the first season specifically?
Lance in the first season, I'd kind of get annoyed by him in the beginning, but by the end of it, I was like I said, I didn't want him to die. I wanted him to survive. I like that he started having some relationship with Arrow, but I think his character really hits the stride in season 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I do not like where they take him in 3, really, without saying too much. But so what I would, if I'm ranking Quentin Lance, it's season 2 Lance, season 1 Lance, and season 3 Lance.
Do you want to rank the characters, or is that not needed?
I can do that. I can rank.
Yeah, that's just an idea. Okay, who's your favorite character and who's your least favorite character? Let's start there.
So Oliver is probably well, let's see. It depends. Sometimes he annoys me. I would say at this point in season 1, I would say it was Felicity as my favorite character.
Okay.
My least favorite character was Thea.
Okay. My least favorite character was Tommy. I couldn't stand him.
Really?
I don't like Tommy. I don't like Tommy. It's a character. It's a base character that's in a lot of things that I don't like.
Yeah.
The too cool for school pretty boy with, oh, there's something more that whatever. I don't like it. And my favorite character I've already said is Diggle. He's been my favorite character the whole way through. Diggle is awesome. My second favorite character is probably Oliver, and then it would probably be Felicity after that.
I would probably have Felicity, Diggle, Oliver, probably Quentin Lance, and then Laurel and Thea.
Yeah,
I don't think Roy fleshed out enough in season 1 for me to.
Roy doesn't count. Roy doesn't count. Moira doesn't count. Walter doesn't count. We're the main crew. Because I think Moira finishes last no matter what. Merlin was Malcolm Merlin was pretty awesome. I thought he was a great actor.
Yeah, John Barrowman.
He's a great actor.
Really great. He is.
They did a musical episode of The Flash with Supergirl. And John Barrowman steals the show in that musical episode. Just gonna let you know that.
Keep an eye out for that.
So, I'm a sucker for musicals. I liked that episode. I know many people hate that episode. But yeah, it's either Supergirl or Flash. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, it's a really funny line where Supergirl and Barry have to do a song, and Barry's like, "I like you more than your famous cousin," and then Supergirl's like, "I know you'll be there in a flash." It's funny. Um, anyway, yeah, the problem with the character rankings in this season one is Laurel and Thea weren't given full agency, um, and they were connected only to the male characters' stories. So I think they get more to do later on.
Yeah, I can't even really remember too many Laurel stories in season one. Just
It was
kinda
all
sitting
about
here
Oliver
thinking.
and Tommy. That's all it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, it was. It was like the love triangle.
Mhm.
She doesn't have a great start in season two either. When she not no spoilers, but when she figures out about it and that stuff, that
Mhm.
storyline didn't really grab me either. But yeah, I don't know. I really liked. I thought the Huntress storyline was odd too. I'll say that. I thought that was a.
The Hunter story just seemed like it was out of nowhere. It didn't need to be in the season one at all. Like if you took it out, it
Yeah,
wouldn't have changed anything.
it's like two
I
episodes.
yeah, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't need it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the actors had great chemistry with Oliver. Stephen and Melanie had great chemistry, and I think that's why it worked. Other than that, you're right. It was a bit odd.
Yeah, it felt played out after the first one. Like the second one, she finds out about her dad is still alive or whatever, and she comes out of hiding again to try to kill him again. I'm like, didn't we just do this a few episodes ago? So that was kind of where I felt like the first episode of the Huntress thing, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like we get to the second time with Huntress where I was like, this just felt like we're kind of retreading it.
Filler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
yeah, so I've been a little lost on the Starling City thing. Is there a reason why they named it Starling City for the first few
Honestly,
seasons?
I'm convinced. I am absolutely 100% convinced that there was a typo in the screenplay, in the script. They kept it going because they did it the first episode and they just kept going with it. I'm convinced that it was never supposed to be anything but Star City. I'm convinced.
I feel like they almost, I think that's where the show kind of in season one feels like a different show than season two, even is they were afraid, it felt like, of going comic booky to the point where they
Mhm.
renamed Star City to Starling City. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be Star City, right? And I
Yeah.
Googled it. I Googled it because I was like, I Googled Green Arrow.
Hmm.
And I think the Wikipedia even said Starling City. And I was like, so am I wrong? I was so lost.
Well,
And
they
then,
changed it to Star City
yes,
in the show.
in season 4, they've changed it with little to no explanation. But, there's an explanation there, but they don't really, I don't think, come out and say it too clearly. And I think at that point they're embracing it, right? Because in season 2, no spoilers, but to set up the Flash, they did a backdoor pilot where they introduced Barry Allen in like a 2-parter, and at that point, from then on, it like the show was trying to be grounded, gritty type thing, and it kind of gets a little less that because you can have some of these metahumans and then they were, I guess at that point they're like, well, we might as well just actually go full comic book and name it Star City, and we'll make up some BS reason to do that in universe. But it's just I found it odd.
It's one of those things that these shows do. Like the Flash finally gave Barry the gold boots, and like
Yes.
it took what
Yeah.
season 8. They finally gave him the gold boots, and they're like, oh well, we screwed this up. We have to fix this and find a reason for it. And there was this whole like science fiction like thing that the boots did, and that's why he wears the boots, and it
Oh, okay.
allowed him to like walk on little lightning clouds or something. I don't know.
Well,
I was
even season 1 of Flash, he doesn't have the white in his logo.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that odd. And then they actually make it like a story point at one point,
I feel like
so
I feel like they screwed up the costume, and then they're like, we got to fix it. I think they screw things up, and they have to fix it. And then I think they do try to make it different.
But with Flash,
mm-hmm.
I felt like it was almost intentional because in the pilot, when he looks at the newspaper, he has the white logo. So it's like, why would they have gotten it right for the newspaper clipping and then make it wrong in the show? It felt very weird,
Well, with the Flash, then why did he kept trying to change the newspaper headline? Why didn't he just keep the red one so it would change the time?
Yeah, true. There you go. We've solved it.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I thought season 1 of Arrow was really good. I thought it was really well written for the most part. I think Arrow gets better in season 2, though. I think it does. I think season 1 sets up season 2 to be perfect. I think season 2's my favorite just because it introduces Sarah Lance, who's my favorite character in the whole Arrowverse.
Okay.
Legends of Tomorrow is perfect. If you haven't watched Legends of Tomorrow, you're just missing out.
I haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, I know. And I warn you that season 1 of Legends is a little rough. It's a little rough. It doesn't get off to a great start. But once it gets going, like halfway through season 2, you're like, this is so good. There's actually a funny line in like a later seasons of Legends where they're a misfit team or something, and they see a misfit team, and they're like, I think these guys might figure things out like halfway into their second year or something. I don't know. And it was like they made fun of the fact that the show got good, like mid-season 2, and then season 3 of Legends is so good, so perfect.
Nice.
Zany, crazy, wacky, fun.
Yeah,
Arrow has so many rules. Legends has none, and the Flash doesn't know which one it is. That's the Arrowverse in a nutshell. Arrow has all these rules. It has to be dark, gloomy.
Mm-hmm.
Legends has no rules. The Flash wants to be Arrow and Legends, and Supergirl is just Supergirl. I mean, it's its own thing.
Yeah. So I have a question about Supergirl before we wrap up.
Yeah, what's up?
Oops, hold on. All right, so my question about Supergirl is, it obviously has a different vibe in the first season. It was CBS.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't CW. And I know for, I don't know how many seasons, but they're on a separate Earth for, than the rest of the Arrowverse.
Earth 38, yes.
So does the production value go down in season 2 to fit the CW look? Because it looks a little bit more polished on CBS. You know what I'm saying? Like the camera.
It kind of does.
It shot more like the Good Wife, than it shot like another show. So I know a lot of these shows are still directed by the same people. But yeah.
I will tell you that Supergirl's budget was obviously smaller than the Flash's. And probably smaller than Arrow's. I feel like they probably treated Supergirl like the redheaded stepchild in terms of money, because there are moments of that show where you're like, CG is so bad. There are times when and Supergirl is also really heavy-handed with her writing. So it goes up and down. When Supergirl is great, it's phenomenal. And when Supergirl is bad, it's hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Their finale, their last season, the last couple episodes, there was a moment that was so cringeworthy, where it's like because like you're poking holes in it as you're watching it because you're just kind of got accustomed to it. You're like, did they realize that she has super hearing? Because she has super hearing the whole show. But apparently she doesn't have super hearing all of a sudden. Okay. Um, stuff like that.
And
But
she's on a separate Earth until Crisis, right?
yes, until Crisis on
Wow.
Infinite Earths, yeah. And Barry, have you caught to her and Barry yet on
I have
Supergirl?
not. So I do know
Okay.
though that I have to watch by the time I hit like Flash episode 18 of season 2, I have to have watched the first 17 of Supergirl because I think they cross over on the 18th
Yes.
for each of them.
Yes. So yeah, they the crossover was interesting. Because Barry, I don't want to spoil it for you. You haven't seen it. It was interesting though. It was fun. I
Yeah,
liked it.
I'll get there
I like
probably
Supergirl. There are
wait.
just some seasons that are better than others. I think Supergirl is the spottiest show because it goes from boom, 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 boom. Every season is just like a different, the whole thing of wax.
Okay.
And then with Arrow, it goes up and down, and with the Flash, it kind of goes up and down. But with Supergirl, it goes up, stays up, down, up, down. It's just dramatic shifts to me. I thought Supergirl season 3 was fantastic. I like season 1 and 2 okay. The rest of it, take it or leave it.
Interesting.
I mean, I
Yeah.
watched the whole show and I enjoyed it, but there were at the end of it, I was less invested in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll have to well, I'm really looking forward to at some point talking Arrow season 2 and the Flash. Season 2 of Arrow introduced Barry, and I thought that it really got interesting when he came into the fold.
Yeah, can you imagine not being a comic book guy and being like, I wonder why they're introducing this Barry Allen guy?
Yeah, like just totally. Well, he's got an interesting past. His dad is in jail for his mom's murder.
This
That's
is weirdly
interesting.
specific for
Yeah,
a. This
this
is
guy's going to
weirdly
be in like one
specific.
episode. Why are we learning about him right now?
I
Yeah.
actually think him and Felicity would be a better couple than Oliver and Felicity.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I liked the Barry Felicity bit in that
they
episode.
are much a better to me. They are a much better match than Oliver and Felicity. And I think Felicity would probably be less annoying with a better match. I feel like that Felicity takes over Arrow at one point. It's just like, and this week on Felicity's drama.
Really? That's interesting.
And then they flirt with the idea of her becoming a bad person, like a bad guy. And then,
Wow.
they never quite go there, but they always, because you haven't gotten into Felicity's father and everything. I'm going to shut up.
No,
I'm going to
yeah, I
shut
have
up.
not
I'm
gotten
going to
into
shut
any of
up.
that.
I'm going to shut up. I'm going to stop. Zip, zip, zip. I don't want to ruin things for you.
Yeah, don't. I love Felicity right now.
I like Felicity too. She's a great character. There's just moments in the show where you're just like, and you're gonna send me a message when you get to him, and be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I guess we'll find that out. Yeah, I also find it weird that all of these shows have like 23 episodes instead of like,
Mhm.
because usually television standards are 22. So I always found it interesting that these shows had 23.
It's got to be a contract thing. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, it's weird.
I honestly think the Arrowverse was 13 to 15 seasons the whole time. I think it would still be going on.
Yeah.
I think they ran out of stories to tell, and the quality went down because I think Arrow started out with such a clear, concise thing of what they wanted to do with the flashbacks, and then once the flashbacks started going, we got to stretch this out to exactly 5 years. That got a little hard.
What they could have done is just had the flashbacks through season 2 and not had it be a full year for the flashbacks each season. Because I'll just say this without, like, again, no spoilers on what season 3 flashbacks are, but they're not great. And for me, I did not.
I actually agree with you on this.
I
So
did not enjoy the flashbacks of
I'm
season
with you.
3 at all. And right now for season 4, not digging the flashbacks at all. It felt like they kind of forgot what or didn't know what they wanted to do with the flashbacks. And season 3's flashback seems like they were made only the tie-in with the finale with the Raisha Ghul storyline. So
yeah, but they kind of knew where they were
issue I have.
going because he had the Bratva tattoo from the start. They kind of knew where they were
Well,
going.
they can just make that be anything, couldn't they?
Fair.
Right. They just give them all these tattoos and they say, well, we'll figure that out later.
That's fair. I wanted to give them a little credit because like the Bratva thing was very important in season 1. But yeah, flashbacks were a bit of a problem sometimes. I think the problem with the flashbacks was the 23 episodes though, because if you take it to 15 episodes, you're not having that problem of having to stretch the flashbacks out.
Yeah, but nobody told them they had to have it in every episode. They made
But it
that.
became part of the format, and I feel like they were afraid to change the format. It got this they're so addicted to format that when the flashbacks are over, they go to flash forwards.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they go to flash forwards.
Oh, that's kind of like Lost. Lost did flash
Yeah.
forwards.
So, and those were very hit or miss for me. Those were but the flash forwards very much help set up for Crisis and the future storylines.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna get there. You're gonna get there.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been 2 weeks. I've watched 4 seasons of
And that
television.
speaks to the volume. That speaks to the quality that you got with it.
Yeah,
that speaks
I
to
really,
quality.
at times, season 3 was a slog, but at that time, what I would usually do is if I hit a slog in season 3 where I was like, I'm not digging this storyline right now, I would take a break and be like, I'm going to watch like 3 episodes of The Flash and just be like, boom, boom, boom. And then I would
find the
jump
Flash
back
is
over.
more fun. So I find it, how when you say when you're in a mood for hope, you go to Superman, but when you can be you go to Batman. That's kind of how Arrow and Flash works for me. I find Flash to be more fun and optimistic, and I find Arrow to be more of I got my drama for the day, my drama action. I think that Arrow's biggest fault to me is that it gets a little soap opera-y, and it can't quite decide if it wants to be a superhero show or a soap opera sometimes. And I think the Flash sometimes they want to emulate that, but they don't do a great job of it. So it just comes off as cheesy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Season 1 I thought was perfect of the Flash.
Yeah,
season 2 was very good too.
That's what my thought is. Like season 1 of the Flash, the fact that they fit in almost all of his rogues gallery in one season,
and that's all you ever see of it,
was pretty good.
And that's all you ever see of the rogues.
No, they're in season 2.
A little bit, and they get a little less every year.
That's a bummer. But at least season 1 has them all.
Legends takes Snart and Heatwave, so
yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Cold and Heatwave, so that really kills the whole Rogues thing right there. But yeah,
they never come back. They don't come back after Legends at any time.
They kind of do, but they do a lot of baddie of the week on the Flash, a lot of baddie of the week, and they extend. So what ends up happening is the season baddie for the Flash, the season big bad, tends to get up so many episodes of the thing. They make it look so each season of the Flash, it starts to go, we don't know how they're going to beat this guy. And how are they going to beat this guy? Because they started at the beginning and he keeps losing to him and then he wins.
Well, he just has to run faster.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
that's kind of the vibe I got in season 1. It's anytime that they don't know how to beat somebody, it's like, Barry, you're going to have to run even faster now.
Run, Barry, run!
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they don't have a speedster for every big bad on the Flash. Just the first 3 seasons.
Okay.
And then they go back to the speedsters when people complain that it's not a speedster.
When they ran out of ideas, or
Yeah.
okay.
So
People
yeah.
complain.
So like season 4 doesn't have a speedster. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
Season 5 doesn't have a speedster, and then they go back to speedsters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I really dug season 1 of The Flash, so I'd love to have you on and talk that. Because
Yeah, I think that would be a more concise episode
Yeah.
because I'm obsessed with The Flash. I like Arrow. There's a difference. I love The Flash. When The Flash comes on, even if it's an episode that I don't necessarily love, I'm like glued to my seat. Like
Right.
for the
Yeah.
podcast portion, they'd be like, "What is he doing?"
Yeah, he's like, "What?" Yeah, but no, what I really liked about that is just, they didn't really hold themselves back in that show. They wanted to go crazy, and they did in season 1. So I really like that. And so far, I've been enjoying season 2, and I'm probably gonna, when we hop off of here, I'm probably gonna watch an episode of season 2. I also went to my comic shop today, and I bought a couple trades of the
Really?
Flash.
What'd you get?
Well, I got one that's called what's it called? The Flash Rogues, and it is Reverse Flash, and it's like just like 5 big stories of the Reverse Flash. So it's got like his first appearance.
I have one for like Black Mask for Batman
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like that, but it's for the Flash and then Reverse Flash. And then I bought one that was I think it was a Jeff Johns one. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I'll have to look it up.
I just read a Booster Gold trade, 52 pickup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really liked it. I really, really liked it.
What?
I was like, damn, I gotta read this.
What was it, like an old one or a newer one?
Yeah, it was like New 52-ish.
Okay.
So it's called 52 pickup, but like he had to like stop the origins of Justice League members from being eliminated from the timeline. Like one issue, he had to go to the Wild West and like drink with Jonah Hex, and then the bad guys were gonna kill the doctor who delivered Jonathan Kent. Because if Jonathan Kent dies, then Superman doesn't get discovered by the Kents, and then Lex Luthor ends up killing him as a teenager. Like it was like, so Booster Gold had to prevent that doctor from dying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting because it was like it's very Legends of Tomorrow. I was like, I think whoever wrote Legends of Tomorrow, because it had Rip Hunter in it, and it was like
yes.
Yeah,
So that okay. So you would probably really like Booster Gold.
Because they're fixing things in the timeline, and
yeah, I got one of the 1986 ones right here.
Ooh, yeah, nice.
My local comic shop had this one, but in one of these,
I've stopped spending money, so that's why I'm not reading as much. I literally just read like 3 trades and recently, and I was like, well, I want to read more, but I don't want to spend more, so I'm gonna have to find one on my comic book shelf I haven't read yet.
Or if you have the Hoopla app,
or
if you have a library card.
See, here's the thing. I don't have a library card.
Go sign up.
Yeah, but then I'm like, can I get a library card? Why do you want a library card? For Hoopla?
They won't ask you why. It's a free
okay, fair enough. Yeah, there you go.
No, but that's how I used to read them when I like was trying to save some money or whatever. Be reading.
Comics is a very expensive hobby. It really is.
But with Booster Gold, there was he does steal one of Rip Hunter's time machines to go back in time in the original 80s run, and it looks exactly like Dr. Wells' time machine at the end of season 1 of The Flash. So that's a reference. He makes the reference.
The 52 pickup, the book I read, Rip Hunter's time machine looks exactly like that too. So I'm like, there's so much Legends in this, and I'm like, this is this is my language. I know this.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I was
But
like,
yeah,
we're
Booster
just
Gold
missing a
is
few characters. Yeah.
Booster
It
Gold is
was
great.
great.
I'm making my way through his 80s series right now. On the Infinity app.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out more Booster Gold as I get, and then I got to read Grant Morrison's Batman run. Those are the two runs that I
Yeah.
got. Thanks, James Gunn. He gave me homework. But hey, I wanted to do that anyway. It's actually one of the major Batman things I haven't read much of. I have read some Grant Morrison Batman, but I haven't read the whole lot of it. Um, Not a lot of the Damian stuff. So.
Okay, this is what I bought. Okay, The Flash, The Dastardly Death of the Rose.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it?
I like that one. I like that one. I've read a
Yeah,
lot of Flash.
I just bought that. So, I love Jeff Johns too. So
Yeah.
usually if he writes something, I have a good time with it. So I will
And that'll
try to read it.
you can go all the way to Flashpoint. So
And I already have Flashpoint. I bought it.
Okay.
So yeah, I can go and I can read it I can fill in the
Yeah.
gaps on the
So
app.
Flashpoint, one of the big projects I have, because Flashpoint's one of my favorite stories. One of the big projects I have is read all the tie-ins.
Okay.
To Flash. I haven't
That's
read
probably
all
a
the
lot.
tie-ins. I've read some of them, but I haven't read all. Just some. It's just so many connecting, like all the Flashpoint timeline stuff. It's like It's like a life journey. There's so much to read, but the the Batman Flashpoint stuff is so good. So cool.
Oh,
So
is it?
yeah, I'm really into it. So I want to read more of the Flashpoint tie-ins, but I've read Flashpoint like 6, 7 times. I
Don't
love
they
it.
have you read any Flashpoint Beyond? Isn't that a thing going on now?
Yeah, that's a thing. I read the first couple issues, and then I kind of got more into because I was reading it digitally as it came out, and I kind of got back into the physical copies of things and stopped reading. And then I was like, I'm just gonna read it when it's all done, and then I never got back to it.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
guilty.
see. It
I'm guilty with
is
that.
okay. Yeah, so it looks like it's some sort of sequel to Flashpoint, but
Yeah.
huh.
So yeah, I have the first couple issues on my Kindle.
Nice.
I need to get back into that stuff. It's kind of cool. I like Flashpoint anything. If you didn't tell, I like the Flash.
Yes, and speaking of,
It-
because we've gone so far off track, we will be talking
yeah,
next time. I don't know how you want to do
we,
it next time when we have you on, but if we want to do
yeah.
Arrow season 2 and the Flash in like one recording, and then I can split it up if I need to.
Whatever
But
works, because
yeah,
we're gonna have a blast either way. We've kind of become like the MCU, where we give you an advertisement for everything within the show.
right, exactly.
So this is just an extended post-credit scene. So the mid credit scene played out through the whole credits.
Exactly. All right, so Chris, where can people find all of your hard work at?
All right, so I'm not doing as much hard work as I'd like because I'm in college and that's getting more of my attention. But you can follow me at FootballMan58. For the football stuff, Russell Street Report is where I write. For the superhero stuff, which if you're listening to this, you're probably more inclined to, at Multiversal Omni on Twitter, and we are the Multiversal Omnibus on YouTube, and we have a YouTube channel and we do shows. Jordan comes on every now and then, and it's always fun when that happens. Yeah, that's kind of my plugs.
Great. And you can follow our show here at Elseworlds DC Fan on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Marvel pod as well called To the Infinity Saga and Beyond. I was just a guest on the Spider-Man Book Club yesterday. I think that episode's going to drop next week. And I talked Spider-Man Life Theft, which was one of the first comics I ever read because my dad used to get Spider-Man comics. So it's a 3-issue arc that I talk about on there with JJ Hodges, who has the Spider-Man Book Club. So you guys can check that out. That's probably dropping next week, he said. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. And yeah, thank you all for watching or listening. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time.